All right, all right. Hello and welcome to Webinar Wednesdays. My name is Amber Shah. I'm the Shah of St. Augustine, and today I wanted to take you through some information regarding current updates in the real estate world here in St. Augustine, Florida. I am a local realtor and I'm working on a lot of market updates for some of my neighbors over here and some folks on my softball team. So I just kind of want to go live here and be able to send this out to other folks after I'm done. But please go ahead, grab some popcorn, sit down, and we're going to talk about what is going on right now, the truth, between what is up with the market and everything that you should be going on. So, what we're going to do is got Webinar Wednesday here, and we're going to go through what you should know about selling. And if you're interested in selling your home, or if you're thinking about what is your home worth, I actually have some folks that I've been running into that are trying to do the for sale by owner thing. There's actually a hilarious news article that's been circulating and might have gone viral, if you will. And it is about a guy who used ChatGPT to help sell his house. And the interesting thing about that is a lot of realtors and the internet also can give you suggestions on what to do to make your house better. And the real question is, are you going to listen to the advice that you are given from the professional? So that guy who did sell his house on ChatGPT, not on ChatGPT, but he used ChatGPT to help enhance his descriptions, and he might have also used it for some of the staging photos and stuff like that. So, best practices that need to be followed to have a successful sale. And I have firsthand experience with that. I could tell you all about that. And then, of course, if you're a buyer and if you're interested in purchasing some property here in St. Augustine, we can talk about that too. And the timing, because most of the time, what people are looking for is a magic wand. You know what I mean? We want the magic wand. Abracadabra, get me the best deal. Abracadabra, make me a lot of money, right? So, should I sell now or should I wait? All right. So, I'm so happy you're here. Let's dig in. This isn't about pushing you to sell, and this is about helping you decide and understand what is involved in making a smart choice. Okay. So, first of all, if you're here, you're probably wondering, should I sell now? You're feeling a little bit stuck. All right. Wondering, what if the prices go down? What if the mortgage rates go down? What if they go up? What if I miss the window? 2021, 2022 was clearly the peak of the market around here in the last most recent decade or so. And we're looking at projections that are showing what might be considered a slowdown. I wouldn't call it a crash, okay? And I'll tell you why in just a moment. And this decision, in reality, it matters more than you think, okay? It's not dramatic, it's subtle. Waiting can either make you money or it could cost you tens of thousands of dollars, 20,000, 30,000 if you get it wrong, okay? So, how do you feel right now? Are you feeling stuck? You know, um, let me give you a quick real world example. I had a seller who had a property about an acre over there in Hastings in Flagler States. And he had a manufactured home on the property. I want to say the manufactured home was like not even 20 years old. And they had done a bunch of renovations in there. Not like a bunch of renovations, but like, fixing up the place and making sure that it was in good condition. Okay. And they weren't sure if they should sell. So they actually waited 6 months before they called me. And this was like last year in, no, 2 years ago. So 2 years ago was 2024. 2022 was the high. And they were trying to get, in on that high note. But that's when the market started to shift and that's when prices were going down. And they had just needed some price adjusting. Honestly, we had the house up for, I want to say 242 because the guy really wanted to get like 230 off of it for some reason. So it's interesting when you talk to sellers, you have to find out like what you need to make from your sale. Like obviously we all want to make the most money as possible off of the sale of our property, right? We want it to increase in value exponentially as much as possible for as long as possible. Yes, that's the dream. But in reality, that doesn't always happen. So we had these folks that, they totally, 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 and I think it was a 3 or 4 bedroom. I think it was a 4-2. So it was a pretty big house. It was like over 2,000 square feet, 4-2, 1 acre of land. Um, I was like, this house just doesn't fit into the above $250,000 category because all the other ones when I was running comps and I was trying to find, and I was like, hey, here are some similar houses that are very similar to your house. And these ones were all above 250, but they all had one thing in common, and it was a front porch. These people did not have a front porch. They had a beautiful house. It was in very, very good shape, freshly repainted, no front porch, no back porch either, and no exterior buildings that were covered. So, like, no gazebos or any barns or anything like that. So, I told them that the pricing that we had put in place was decent, but it was a little bit high, especially without the front porch. And we had absolutely zero showings for 2 months. And after the first 2 weeks, you're done. So they didn't want to reduce their price at all. They ended up taking the house off the market. And I don't even know if they still live there, but I need to get in touch with them, probably see what they're up to. So that's an example, it wasn't a crash. It was just timing, you know? So depending on how long you wait. And another thing was they had repainted inside their house, which was great. Most of the house they painted inside pure white, which was also great. Okay, no judgments against the pure white. However, they did enjoy a fine accent wall, which I do too. But they painted their accent walls black. And a black accent wall inside a house is for a very specific type of person. And I'm not saying that in any like kind of way or whatever. I'm just saying like not many people would like a black wall inside their house. And the thought of repainting a black wall is a little bit intimidating too, because you're like, oh man, it's black. I'm definitely going to have to use a primer, a few layers, whatever. It's just like not something that you're going to look forward to. Okay, so if you're going to repaint your house, that's fantastic. That's great. Please just paint it all like one color. I have a great example. I had my old house in Massachusetts. It sold in the very first weekend. I loved that house so much. We had murals in the house. I had painted 2 murals inside the bedrooms for each one of my kids. Each one of them had a mural that I hand painted. And when I decided to sell my house, we painted those murals white. And it was like painting the roses red in Alice in Wonderland, you know? And I was like, off with their heads. Who painted my mural? I mean, it was my decision, but we took photos. We have it. It lives in our memory. But So you got to also remember, not everybody is going to love the things that you love. Like I loved those murals, okay? And I would imagine that somebody that moved into my house would absolutely love those murals too. Guess what? This house that I bought had an accent wall in one of the bedrooms, and it was like a striped wall. And this house was on the market for quite some time, and I repainted that wall as soon as I moved in. And when I first saw the wall, I was like, "Oh, well, that's kind of cool." Um, but it's like, oh, it's kind of cool. It was like a red, white, and blue striped thing, whatever. It wasn't like all America, whatever, but it was like a striped thing. And but either way, I was like, not for me. I would have preferred my mountain range mural that I'd painted on my son's wall, or that chevron design that I painted on my daughter's wall. But it wouldn't work for everybody. And even so, you'd go into the house, you're like, wow, I love this wall, but my bedroom's going to be that other room. So I don't know who's going to be in here. They're going to enjoy that maybe. Okay, so it's all about timing and making sure that you're making those small adjustments. And sometimes you have to get over your own ego. Okay, because you're like, oh man, I painted the accent wall black. People are going to love that. Look at how cool that looks to you. All right, so then um, what's happening now in the market is the homes are sitting longer. And I'll tell you another thing. It's Pinterest, right? So even like parenting. So parenting, Pinterest parents are insane and like stuff just looks amazing all the time, whatever. But same thing with new construction, okay? People are going to go look at new construction. They're going to go look at a model home. They're going to go look at this beautiful house that you're going to want to live in. You literally walk in there, you're like, this is it. I could totally picture myself here. And that's the whole point, okay? They do that on purpose. They want you to picture yourself there. So then if you're selling your house, you have to be able to let other people picture themselves in your house. You can't be like, you have to see my great grandmother's urn. Her dead body is, a prized possession of mine. You're going to love it. They might not. So homes are sitting for longer. Buyers are being more selective. Pricing matters more than ever because I had my own spreadsheet when I moved, and I got the spreadsheet, 40 houses, and it was very impersonal. I remember there was one house that I was really excited to go look for and go see it. But when I got there, it smelled like urine and animal excrements so bad that I had to leave immediately. And I was like, oh my God, I can see why that was priced so low. Anyways, but the pricing, it's very competitive. You got so much information that people can look at right now. And even with not only open houses, but also scheduled showings are getting no shows constantly. And people are just changing their mind at a moment's notice. You know, Shopping for houses right now is almost like dating on Tinder. You can just swipe left, swipe right, change your, profile criterion, and then pull up a whole new thousand to look at and see how much you really want those, all that good stuff. It's fun. Um, but it doesn't mean panic, okay? This doesn't mean, I'm not talking about, this isn't like fear mongering, okay? Some people have to move. You absolutely have to. And what you have to do is find the sellers that want to sell. And if you are a seller, you have to really want to sell. And we have to meet people in the middle. Um, it's not crashing, it's shifting. And similarly, we had this, lawsuit a couple of years ago where the realtors had gotten the National Association of Realtors had settled a lawsuit with, I believe it was Keller Williams, which is a big brokerage. And I believe that it was also in their St. Louis area, in Missouri area, in the middle of the country. But what happened was all these listing customers that were selling their homes weren't reading the contracts at all or something. And then now they decided to sue the realtors and they said, hey, we didn't understand that the contract said this, that, and the other thing about the closing statements. So now we're moving towards a more educated consumer, which is why I want to talk to you about this right now, and just why I want to conversation with you about how all this works. And we could talk about this in real life, or you could just watch this video. So let's move on. And in reality, it just means that we have to shift with the market. So we've got the decision framework here. Three things that decide everything. You've got timeline, equity, and market direction. So the timeline is how long do you need to be able to do these things? How long do you have to do these things? And I'll tell you right now, usually if you want to buy a house, right, you want to definitely start like 3 months in advance because you're going to be under contract for the house for about a month, maybe 45 days, sometimes 2 months, depending on you. But imagine that you already have a month at the end before you can move into your house because that's going to be the contract time. So then you want to be looking for your house for however long you want to look for your house, a week or two, or, a month or so. And when you're ready to buy, because the hard thing about the market too is that, stuff can sell. You never know when it's going to sell. So you could be looking at a house and then it could sell if you're still just chilling. So always make sure that you have your finances in check. One thing that actually I got in trouble when I bought my first house, I didn't realize that I needed to be up to date on my taxes. And I usually am, but I think I'd fallen behind like a year or two. But I was working with an accountant at the time, and the accountant was like, don't worry, we can get you an extension, no problem at all. So I wasn't worried about it. I didn't even think about it. My accountant had that covered, whatever. So we actually went under contract with our house, and then we were trying to get a mortgage. And then the mortgage company said, oh, you got to get all your taxes up to date. So then we had to get our taxes up to date. So we had to extend the closing of my first house closing by like over a month, I believe. We made the offer on the house in December, but we didn't move in until March. And that house sat on the market for like a year or so too. That was a weird house. And again, that was a cool house if you had the vision for it. Some people just don't have any kind of imagination at all. They just see what you're doing and then they're like, oh, I'm going to go do that in that house. That's going to be the master. That's going to be the playroom. That's going to be the office. That's going to be the whatever. Maybe they change the whole thing, but some people don't. Some people like, I don't even know, like think that it's got rules or something like that. But if you own your property now and you want to sell, um, want to check how much equity you have in your house. So, say, for example, you buy your house, you put 10% down, and it appraised for whatever you bought it for. Therefore, you have 10% equity in your house and you own 10% of your house. But then you live there for a few years. You live there for, let's say, 10 years, and then you paid into your mortgage for 10 years. And after 10 years, you could possibly have, another 10 to 20% equity in that house. And over time, the value of the house goes up. So if I owned my house for 10 years and now it's worth, $500,000, but over the last 10 years, it actually doubled in value. So I paid 250 for it 10 years ago, hypothetically. Then I get the additional value of the house of the increase in value of the house, which is another $250,000, right? So originally I paid 10%, 25,000, and then I built another 250,000 in equity based on just market value of the house increasing over the last 10 years, 250,000 plus 25,000, 275,000 out of 500,000 I have equity in the house. How cool is that? So one cool thing, about buying property as opposed to renting is that you do accumulate that value of the increase of the house as inflation increases and property values increases. And that brings me to a fun fact as to why property values are not going to decrease that much. And equity in the house, okay, so say for example, I am a veteran. If I'm a veteran, I could get a VA loan with zero down. So if I bought a house last year for $400,000 with a VA loan with zero down on a 30-year, mortgage. So I'm going to be paying that $400,000 plus interest for the next 40 years on my VA loan, or 30 years, whatever. But anyways, so if I have to turn around, if I have to move, right? If I'm a veteran, well, let's say I'm active duty, because even better. So pretend I'm active duty. But if I was in the army and I bought a house and then I have to move again, I find out that I'm getting restationed, right? And I'm like, oh, but I don't want to keep the house. I want to buy a house wherever it is that I move, because I think I might end up staying there for a while, a while longer. So if you end up having to sell your house after a year, but you put zero down and you've been paying PMI, whatever, you have essentially zero equity in the house, right? So then you have to like turn around, sell the house. You have to pay taxes on the sale of the house. You have to pay X percent to the realtor after you sell the house too. So like some people just have to sell the house, right? So could you sell your house for very much less than what you paid for it? What would happen if you did? You'd have a loss, right? So you'd have less money, you'd lose money. Can everybody afford to lose money? No, not everybody can afford to lose very much money. Could you afford to lose like $50,000 off the sale of your house that you've only lived there for a year and had zero equity, and then you have to go turn around, sell that house, and then buy a new house? So this is why house prices are not going to be decreasing too much, because a lot of people want to make an offer on a house and they want to lowball the offer, right? So if I see a house for $400,000, do I want to offer them $200,000 on the house to see if I could get this $400,000 house for $200,000? Sure, I could do that. Absolutely. What do you think they would say? Probably fuck off. But also, like, they would say, like, no, counter offer, here's what I need for this house, right? So like it's actually a $400,000 house. I do need 375, and then you can negotiate. So you could do a back and forth like that. I'll tell you a great story. I have a fun story that I absolutely love. One of my customers, we actually had a closing on Halloween one year. So we were both in there in our Halloween costumes. It was so fun. And she got this house and it was in Satsuma. So it was in the middle of kind of central-ish Florida, a little ways away, about an hour away from here. And really cute little house on an acre of land, no HOA, not even a mobile home. It was a regular house, single family home. And the house was originally for sale for $225,000. And the couple that had owned the house were getting divorced. So they needed to sell the house because they wanted to go their separate ways, and they weren't living in the house anymore. The house was empty. So then they had the house listed for 225. It was up for a while. They ended up reducing it a few times, went all the way down to 190. So the house went down to $190,000. My customer was originally only given a mortgage approval for $120,000. And then somehow we worked with the mortgage company, and then she had a sister who was on disability or something, so we were able to get that up to 160. So we got that up to 160,000. We saw this house for 190, and then we were able to make an offer for 160. And I had to write them a letter saying this is our final offer because that's the only amount of money that we have. And they took it. Okay, so you just never know with the buyer. So it's all about that. And sometimes you have to do what you have to do, you know, but also it just depends on your timing. So first of all, we got your timing here. How soon do you need to move? 0 to 6 months. Is your sell window any longer than 6 months? All right, so 3 to 6 months is definitely your window of time in which you want to get going, and that would be great. So then you've got your equity, your leverage position. So if you have high equity, then you're in a stronger position, because also you could also do like a HELOC, where if you did like a home equity line of credit or a home equity loan, then you can get money out of the equity of your house and use that towards a down payment towards something else, or what have you. Sometimes you can also just keep your property and rent that out or something. And that's a good thing too if you don't mind property management. And then your market. So the neighborhood itself, right? So, say, for example, that customer that I had that got that really good deal on the house that was in the middle of nowhere. So, I don't think that those sellers had very many customers that were coming out that way that wanted to go out there. So, how many homes are sitting? How many homes have price reductions? In my office, we've been recommending that you do price reductions almost weekly because every time you do a price reduction, it dings the MLS differently. We were even like having a conversation. We are like, oh, well, if your house is sitting for too long, what do you do? Price reduction, price reduction, price reduction. So if your house is selling right now, if it's on the market and you haven't been having very much action, price reduction, please. That would definitely help you out a little bit. Okay. That is data, not headlines. Those are facts. All right. So you have to ask yourself, do I have to move soon? Or would I regret missing today's price? Or is my house even ready? Okay. Because it needs to also show well, right? And like I said, smell good. So one of the things that I always tell people is if you're a new to the area customer and you want somebody to do a virtual tour for you, I'm happy to do a virtual tour for you. And I also am happy to give it the sniff test because I'll tell you if it doesn't smell good, that could be a problem. All right. I used to work for Dyson. We used to sell air purifiers. So I'm all about pure air. And I can practically see volatile organic compounds and particulate matter in the air. So I'm heavily trained. And I'd be happy to do that. I'm not saying that I can clinically sniff mold, but I'm pretty sure I can sniff mold. And what you need to also ask yourself is, what am I willing to do in this market to help my house move? What am I willing to do to get into the seller's market? So you have to notice what you're telling yourself. Are you ready? I remember when I sold my house in Massachusetts, it was during the pandemic. So I was home all the time. And in Massachusetts, the lockdown was very real. So like we weren't like allowed to go anywhere except for like stores. So I'd like randomly go to Home Depot and buy a bunch of lights. And I like replaced all the lighting in my house. I didn't realize how easy that was. Go ahead and Google it. It's not that hard. You definitely want a partner, so don't do it alone. But I was surprised because I'd never done any of this stuff. Like growing up, nobody in my house was very handy except for me. So anything I didn't know how to do before, I never really did. So I repainted the whole house, changed all the lighting fixtures, made the whole place pretty neutral. It sold in the very first weekend for over asking. It was amazing. So I had redone the whole house and I was kind of looking around. I was like, man, I think there was like one point we had done something and I was like, oh man, I wish we could do this. And I was like, well, why don't we do this? Oh, like, I would like to live in a nice house. I would like to live in a nice place. And I noticed also whenever I would move, we would clean everything up really nice. And then right before we moved, I'd be looking around like, wow, it's really nice in here. I don't want to move. I like it here. And then you let it go to like squalor. And then you're looking around, you're like, oh God, we need like a nicer place. It's like, but only if you cleaned up your place, it would be pretty nice. So sometimes you have to move, but sometimes you could just make some changes. That's cool. But listen, when sellers lose money, I'll show you this. Sellers lose money when you're waiting for the perfect time. There is no such thing as the perfect time. It's like when I was having my kids and I had gotten married and I bought my house and I was deciding to have kids and try to get pregnant. It took me like 6 months to get pregnant. And that was very depressing. But also, every month that I did not get pregnant for those first like 5 months, I was so mad, because I was so ready. So, and then same thing when I was ready to buy a house, when I moved to St. Augustine, we were in Airbnb for 2 months trying to look for houses. And looking around for so long, looking around forever, couldn't find nothing. But so many houses we did see, but just like there was just something like, oh, well, that's not right, you know? Then there's no perfect time to buy either because also you'd be like, oh, we're gonna wait for the rates to go down. We want the rates to be perfect, whatever. Did you know? Again, if you're under contract for your house for a month and you're waiting for the mortgage to go through or whatever, if you're not buying cash and you have to wait. But so if yeah, if you're waiting for the rates to go down, whatever. But also you could catch like a good rate one day and they go, oh, you're pre-approved for your mortgage for this rate. But then you go under contract like a week or two later, the rate can change. You are at the mercy of the rate du jour, the rate of the day. So whatever the rate is today is what you're getting on the day that they finish writing up your mortgage for you. So even if you think that you have a good rate today, and I'm not saying it's ever going to like change dramatically or whatever, but it could. But anyways, again, I'm sorry. I'm not doing fear mongering. I'm just saying like these are all facts. These are all things that have actually happened. So, waiting for the perfect time, waiting for the mortgage rates to go down, chasing the market down, waiting for all these houses to be free. So, like I said, like there are a lot of people that can't sell their house for very much less than what they paid for it. So that's what's keeping market rates, prices up quite a bit. And then reacting instead of deciding because sometimes what happens is something happens and then you go, oh, I want to do this. I guess we're going to have to do this. So like, some people have to move because maybe they get restationed for the military or whatever. Or, just a work example is one of the most frequent reasons that people have to must move. And in that event, you're kind of at the mercy of whatever you're able to do. And that's fine. But making sure that you're making smart decisions when you can is going to be important. And in this particular market shift, where we are shifting from this weird market where we had so many blind buyers, now we have a more educated buyer. And we also have an older first time buyer. The recent reports have shown that the average first time home buyer is in their 40s as opposed to in their late 20s about 10 years ago. It's really interesting. So you have to make a strategic decision. And my philosophy has always been always be connecting, have a connection to your timing, to your goals, and to your own situation. You have to know what you're doing. You have to be intentional. Strategy over guessing, you know? That's how I approach real estate. The best decisions come from clarity and not pressure. So it was like one day I, finished redesigning my house or whatever, and I was like, man, I bet we could get a lot of money for this house. I bet we could sell this house. And we did. So that was great. If you need any help deciding, if you have any questions, I would love to help you. You can comment down below right here. Comment the word decide or text me the word decide, and then we can start our conversation. And that's normal. If you're unsure, it's absolutely normal. It's not normal to think that you have all the answers. Sometimes I don't have all the answers either. And I'll tell you that I'm going to go ask somebody else. I'm going to go find somebody who is an expert on this. And we'll get that personalized breakdown of your situation so that we can figure out what would be best for you. Because you don't need to rush, but you don't want to drift. Okay? You get some clarity to create confidence for you and for this market because some of these people that we deal with also don't make sense. So it's nice to be able to have somebody that can communicate in a way where we can get some answers because there are some people that feel like, you know, once you're clear, the next step is easy. Okay? Yeah. So, thank you for being here. Subscribe here on YouTube. I have a Facebook page, Instagram, TikTok. Spotify. My podcast is on Spotify and here on YouTube, so you can go check those out too. Um, I'm on LinkedIn. You can DM, PM, text, or call right here, 978-908-0787. That's my number. Check out my book, Yoga in Sales. Visit ambershaw.online today, and we'll get you started with some fun stuff going on here in real estate in St. Augustine. Buy or sell, it'll be fun. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today for my very first webinar series. I'll be trying to do this every twice a month on Wednesdays. We'll have webinar Wednesdays. And comment also what subjects you want the webinars to be about. These webinars will be real estate focused in nature. And yeah, I hope you learned something. Thank you. Bye.